Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Donut Shop. Today, I'm here with Kenny Williams, doing this remote. Kenny Williams, as you can see, he's in his studio for Beyond the Barrel podcast. He's also a police officer in Indiana and a member of Counterculture as well. So, good stuff. Kenny and I have pretty much been talking for the last hour and 15 minutes before the show. So, might as well have just recorded that. But now we're going to get to the show and get a little serious on what Kenny does normally in his living, also with side jobs, and then with current projects that are going on, to include a training conference and stuff. So what's up, Kenny? Welcome to the Donut Shop podcast.
No, it's a privilege. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So we'll start with what you do now. You're an active police officer now, and you're very big in interdiction. You also have a canine dog, right?
Yeah, I'm on my second dog.
Second dog. So yeah, tell me about kind of like what your passion is now for police work, and how you kind of handle yourself day to day with what you do on the road, right? You're not a detective or anything, are you?
No.
No?
I'm assigned to an interdiction, team through my agency. Interdiction, for the most layman and easy way to explain, is like we intercept contraband that's going from point A to point B that's traveling on our roadways. If you look at any type of contraband, even if it's getting here through air, on boats or anything like that, on trains, eventually it's going to have to touch the roadway. Like eventually.
Yeah.
So like interdiction, that's the main purpose, is to try to intercept the contraband on the roadways. And then I have two dogs. Well, my first dog was a Dutch Shepherd. His name was Mojo. He retired about 4 years ago, and then now I have the biggest lab you've ever seen in your life. He's 85 pounds, and he looks like a pit bull. But yeah,
So a lab that looks like a pit bull, is he a passive drug dog?
Yeah,
Like a lab's not gonna come after anybody and do apprehension.
Well, so theoretically, we've done some interesting training to see if he would, and he thinks, like, if we were to put a sleeve on, he thinks it's like a big tug toy. So like, you ever see dogs biting the sleeves? So he'll bite the sleeve. I don't think he would ever bite someone, because he just looks at it like, oh, that's a big tug toy. Like, I want to play tug of war. But so like we just mess with it because he's
although they say most shepherds are very smart, I'm sure labs probably in a different way very smart, that it's just it focuses on it, like you said, as a toy rather than as an object or a meat that you gotta take out.
It's not aggression. It's more like a playing thing when it comes to the lab. But definitely, he just thinks it's tug of war time.
Pop the doors, get him, and it's just licking them. So
pretty much
the old soft ear dog mentality versus the pointy ears. So with that, so you're on the roadways, highways, looking for that, and it kind of goes in line with the hat you have on, your trap find hat. You have a unique speciality of looking for all these hidden compartments, getting through all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I've been working interdiction since 2012. And what kind of took me down that avenue is, we'll talk about so I'm in college.
Get into it.
I'm in college, and I'm going to school to be a teacher, because I have some family members that have substance abuse problems, and I was thinking, if I could be a teacher, maybe I could be that, like, I guess, I don't know, that someone that they can confide in, that's maybe been down the same, like, path, or that they've seen family members
early interdiction.
They'd be like the person that, like, okay, like, we have something that's relatable, and this teacher has turned his life into something positive, like maybe like a road work, like a map that they could follow, if they were coming from the same, like, childhood. So that kind of was the reason that I was going to be a teacher, and then 9/11 happened, and when 9/11 happened, I was like, all right, well, kind of completely changed my philosophy, and I was like, I was living with my grandparents, and I come home, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to war, and they'd like let me sleep on it, and then they they wake up the next day and they're like, "Well, why do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't pay for college." Just to complete, like, I didn't want to. I'm like, I don't want to take loans. I don't want to be that. I'm not, I can't pay for college. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, we'll pay for college." And I'm like, "Well, shit, that kind of." Then I don't have another justification for that. That okay, I don't have another justification for that at that point. And so I was like, "All right, if we're gonna pay for college, then I'm gonna be a cop and I'm gonna change my major." And then when I was getting into that realm, I was thinking if I could stop, on the gram level, the street level stuff, like, with a user amount, like maybe I can prevent a childhood, someone else's childhood, going down that same path. So that was my mindset. And then I go to the academy, 18-week academy. There's a 3-hour block with criminal interdiction. I had no idea what it was. And I see these videos of these dudes like pulling kilos out of cars and stuff. I'm like, holy shit. Like I still get goosebumps thinking about it. And I'm like, I want to do this. I go back to my
Yeah.
department. We don't have an interdiction team. So my first 5 years, I just worked patrol, and I was just very active trying to find, like any type of criminal. Like we had a great group of young guys, and this was like 2008ish. Um, that I mean, just liked going out there, being proactive, and taking people to jail, and it was like more of a friendly competition. Um, and that led into in 2012, the state police had an interdiction team, and I basically like begged and borrowed and with everyone to give me an opportunity to go up there. So that's what happened. I was up there for like theoretically 30 hours of overtime a month, and I wasn't married or anything at the time, and I would probably spend about 90 up there because it was something that I absolutely like dove headfirst into.
Yeah.
Um, with that, and then 2016, they created a full-time assignment for me through my agency, um, which was amazing. And on my own, like, motivation on that, I'm taking 1 gram off of someone on the street, but if I could get 1,000 of them at a time, like, it just gave me so much more motivation to go out there and be proactive and try to stop that trash from coming in our communities.
Yeah, you're stopping 1,000 people from having 1 gram.
Yeah.
So you're cutting it in the middle, and being familiar with kind of where you're at, you're dealing with like a pipeline of between New York and Chicago. Is you're
Yeah,
kind of in that
and
mid
Miami and
ground, close.
Chicago.
Oh yeah, I mean, because yeah, South Florida. We're driving up, feeding feeding the beast up in Chicago. So you're on that outer perimeter fence of Chicago, sort of,
Mhm.
keeping the wolves out, or keeping the the food out, that kind of stuff. So when you came back, or once you got your experience through the state stuff, working there, and they created the one position, where you were by yourself,
Um,
working it, or did you have like
yeah, so
teams? Like,
what
how'd that work out? Like,
so, yeah, like, there's multiple, at the time, there was multiple, like, part-time teams, so it was very rare that I would be up there by myself, um, because it's more of a multi-agency thing, in Indiana too, if you're sworn by the state, you don't need, like, MOUs or anything. You can go anywhere in the
oh,
state
okay,
as long as, like, my
okay,
chief is, like, cool with it, like, theoretically, there's no, like, I know some states, like, if you're a city cop, you can't leave the city and do things in the county unless you have an MOU with the county. Indiana's completely
right.
different, like, once you're in the like, sworn by the state, there's no restrictions pretty much.
Yeah, so the patch on your sleeve is really just kind of saying like where you sort of belong,
Yeah,
but
that's my home base,
you
I
can,
guess.
yeah, but you can, yeah, like what station you report to, but otherwise you're out there, and you can move around, especially where the highways at, because if sometimes if you have a hunch and you know that something is what it is, it's going to take a little bit of time, and you're moving at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, down the highway, you're going to pass through one or two jurisdictions sometimes before you even get maybe PC for a stop, or whatever, to be able to even stop them. It's
Yep.
pretty cool. Um, so you were working with that, and then but now with your agency, you've got um, do you have others, or have you've been able to bring in others to do the same sort of work?
Yeah, so the way it works in my agency is basically like we go through I had one full-time partner for a while and then he retired. Maybe had 2 years out of that, and the way it works is our department gives you about 18 months of the part-time assignment, and basically it's a performance base, like like you have to put, and they don't necessarily want you to you have to find kilos and things like that, but they want to see progression, that you're understanding what interdiction is, because it's really hard. Even for me, coming from a city, then going and working the highway, it's just a completely different dynamic, completely different, animal. And in my city, there's no one going theoretically 70 plus miles an hour, and that's all I'm dealing with on the highway. So just dealing with like traffic stops with traffic and those types of things, it's a completely different world. Um, so it is challenging. But they give you 18 months and it's performance based. So if you do well, then they will allow you to go up there full time. If you don't,
Mhm.
then you kind of give up that assignment, and then they bring someone else in, and they just So we have two of those assignments where they just kind of cycle them through, and I'm hoping to find a good one here soon, and that stays up there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and then if it, because we all have a shelf life as well, so you've got to continue to train the younger officers, the newer people, and try and find a way to make them hungry to want to do it. Because as we've talked, a lot of us, like in counterculture and just through different law enforcement channels, the ability for the eagerness of the younger generation of law enforcement is somewhat lacking in it. There are people that are out there, but some of them tend to be getting into it sometimes for the wrong reasons, or just through not understanding what they're getting into. Because I've seen it, even in my own agency, where people have come in and done training, or done the field training, and they're going to get off on their own, or even they're just potentially going to get extended in their field training, and they leave because they're just like, the job's not safe. It's, they don't say it's scary, but and what they mean by not safe is left up to interpretation, if they just believe it's dangerous out there on the streets, or if they mean that the department doesn't do the right things to ensure that their officers are as well trained and as safe as possible. That part isn't necessarily explained when I've heard that, but a lot of us hear that and we're like, man, you know, first thing is did you know what you signed up for? Like, um, but also you have to remember, safety is in you. Like, whatever happens, it's making sure that you're the one that's trained. You can't just lean on the department to give you that training. You got to do your own, and make sure that you're at, you know, the best physical performance, the best mental performance, because, anything can get you. I'll get off the soapbox on that.
Was and I'll agree to most of that, but I would say maybe like the past 3 years, our hires have been very motivated. Like it's crazy. It reminds me of when I got hired, like 18 years ago, and I'm hoping that that culture is changing. My department's also pretty good, and we have a lot of guys even just getting into law enforcement that maybe have friends or something that are in, and we're one of the departments that they tell them to go to. As far as like working out we get an hour a day, even if you're in patrol. Theoretically, like you could take an hour off, depending on calls and stuff, where you can go in our gym, work out, and
Yeah.
then put your uniform, go back to work. Every morning there's probably, I don't know, I was there this morning. There's probably 8 of us in there working. Out of a 70 man
Yeah.
department, there's 8, 10 of us in there at a time working out. It's pretty cool. It brings that camaraderie and that competitiveness, back in play. So we're very proactive. We encourage you to be proactive. We don't necessarily force you to, but if you want to do anything specialty wise, like the guys that are out there or girls out there doing the job, being active, are more likely to get those specialties. So if you want to be on the SWAT team, if you want to run a dog, if you want to be in narcs, like you have to show, like in patrol, like in between my calls, I'm also being active and being proactive, and and that looks very favorably on you. But I would say probably the past 2, 3 years, we've had some pretty amazing hires. It's refreshing to see.
That's good, and I think that probably, a big key to that and I know you've said that before, is the culture of the department, is there, and kind of to what you're saying, um, that it breeds that. And so I think it's important for candidates and people that are looking at departments to go do a ride along with an agency, or go investigate the agency, and don't just think like, oh, I'm going to take the first one that calls me back and gives me a job, and throw 17 applications out. At least in my South Florida area, there's a lot of agencies in the area, and not every one of them is great. And so it's important. And I know we do that in my agency now with the hiring process. Um, the candidate comes in and does a ride along. And they do one during daytime, and then because we have Alpha Bravo, so they come in and do a day shift ride along, and then a midnight's ride along, kind of more in the evening, but they do a midnight's ride along, just to kind of get geography, an idea of it, and all that kind of stuff. So it's important because uh, it's not just a battle or the work outside. There's work inside. Just like any job, you're going to have politics within your job, and you're going to have leadership in your job that you got to deal with, whether you're working retail or a freaking drive-through restaurant, or law enforcement. You're going to have all kinds of stuff. So you just got to figure out how to make it the best and make it what works for you and your family, and a long haul. But I mean, I see it as a long haul. Like I'm a overly committed person, and I commit to things, and when I do, I see it through. And so that's where I'm at. I never really, I didn't want to leave, mostly because of commitment, but I saw a means to an end, and I enjoyed what I was doing, or I still enjoy what I'm doing. And so it's, like that fun,
Yeah,
you know.
no, and I think in the current climate of law enforcement too, like if you're an officer and you're unhappy with your department because of maybe different policing philosophies, I think that it's easier now to jump ship and go somewhere else where you can find a department that matches your policing philosophy with the administration's goals with policing, and that works both ways. Like if I'm an administrator and I want my guys to be active, I'm going to attract active guys. If I'm an administrator and I want them to be more, I don't know, like PR oriented with the community outreach type stuff, that's who I'm going to attract. And as an officer, you just got to be able to navigate that and be willing to say, all right, you know what, this department doesn't match the what I think policing is, and it seems like everyone's hiring. So I think that it would be at this point in this profession, it's an easy transfer to somewhere else where that something will coincide and you'd be happier for the rest of your career.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean that's most important with the big push in mental health and stuff like that. You've got to, there's enough issues out on the road to have to deal with, that you don't really need to be dealing with stuff inside, or stuff making you unhappy or whatever. The job should be making you happy, one way or the other. So let me take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm sure that there's many of us that are aging and we've thought about hormone replacement therapy. I visited my doctors and discussed it, and I'm still kind of on the fence and not really sure what I want to do. But now I think I've kind of found it, and I know that we could all use a boost of testosterone in our life. Well, check out the best in the game, Human Performance Team. It connects you with doctors via telehealth, and you could submit your labs that you've maybe already done, or you can get fresh ones done. They offer a variety of services like primary care, urgent care, weight loss, and even mental health. We all know that, these jobs weigh on us and our mental health. Jump over to hptrt.com and use the code DSP for a continuous discount. Use the code DSP and get on a road to better health. I may need to recut that because I think it's now hp-trt.com.
Something like that. Yep. Yeah,
I don't,
100%.
something like that. Who knows? So, but yeah. So, um, but so canine, how long have you had a canine partner?
Since 2014.
2014. Okay. So 10 years, so 11
Mhm.
years. Um, do you guys do, like, how often do you guys do specific training?
We have weekly training every Wednesday. It's a 4 hour block, and then
I think that's
um,
freaking every department is Wednesday
is
for
it?
canine
So the
training.
reason
Yeah, ours is too.
so we have court Mondays and Thursdays. So
Uh,
they didn't want to like so now like the reason they picked a Wednesday was kind of just it was going to be like a Tuesday or Wednesday, just so we didn't have to if we had something to deal with court or anything along those lines. So court's Monday, Thursday, and that's why they picked on the Wednesday. But then we have yearly certifications, and then typically there's like a spring seminar that I go to maybe every other year or something like that. So we have an independent body. We're part of the American Police Canine Association, and they certify our dogs. Even though we have master trainers in house, they want to ensure that our dogs are certified, and if we have a master trainer in house, he probably has a vested interest in that dog to do well. So if we have someone
Yeah.
completely independent, grading our work, then and our dog's proficiency, it's better for us, anyways.
Yeah. So like in Florida, and I'm probably gonna misquote this, but at least in our county, um, yeah, I think it's in our county, we have gone away from marijuana now. They're not even training the dogs. Like if they're getting new dogs, they're not even training them in marijuana anymore because of, marijuana cards and the fact that if somebody's transporting their marijuana that they just got from a legal dispensary legally to their home, um, they don't want to use that hit from the dog as the way to do a Fourth Amendment search of the vehicle if the person legally got that, and then they find, oh yeah, you also had coke,
Right, right. No, I get
and
it.
then the whole argument in court about, well, that was also the dog's hit, or their way of showing cocaine was the same way of showing marijuana. So so what I've heard is that they're not even training for marijuana anymore, for
So
our
that's a
guys.
legitimate. I mean, that's a legitimate defense, though. I mean, if you have a legal substance, like that's why you can't use a bomb dog to run around a car, because theoretically a bomb is gonna maybe if you have a gun, I can't run. Like the dog. When it comes to bomb dogs, you can't use a bomb dog to run around a car, and if he was to alert on it, to search it, because I mean, even like fireworks or something like that, like, the dog
Yeah,
might be alerting to those. Those are legal substances. So it makes perfect sense. Like if you have medical or recreational marijuana in your state, a marijuana dog, in my mind, I could see a plausible defense in that situation from a defense attorney. So I wouldn't want my dog on marijuana in case I did have something big, like, a big case, and then all of a sudden that's the reason it gets thrown out. Not that you did anything wrong. It's just the way that, your dog alerts to marijuana, and marijuana then became legal. The problem with that is like, how many dogs you have in the state and how much they cost and how much training goes into them. So that's going to be a curve for, I don't know, 5, 7 years probably, where
yeah,
I don't know if they're going to just get rid of them all. And then the departments are going to have to incur all that new cost on new dogs. I mean, that would be astronomical, but yeah, it's an interesting time when you have a substance that's been illegal for years, um, be start to become legal, and that learning curve is gonna create some interesting case law.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see that because like our even our state attorney in the county has told us that you have to have even plain smell, or like the smell of burnt cannabis, you have to have a +1. You have to actually see it, or you have to have them, admitting to it, or all this kind of stuff. Like you can't just, like, we used to just like, oh, I smell cannabis, I smell burnt cannabis, come on out, like off we go, and so all that is changing, and so it's just, that's the adapting that we have to do, especially once these laws start um going, changing. And then the education to people, to explain to them, like when they're like, oh yeah, no, I can smoke in my car. No, you can't smoke in your car. Your marijuana card allows you the use of it in your own private home, not even in a hotel room that you're renting. Like you can't sit there on the balcony of the Holiday Inn Express. Well, they don't have balconies, but the balcony of the Hilton, and smoke weed, and it goes into so
Yeah.
um it's
See my
for
see
your
my st see my state, it's, we don't have medical, we don't have recreational at all. We have like, so,
Mhm.
um, theoretically, if you have a gram of weed, we could arrest you,
Yeah,
in my state, so we haven't gone through that yet. Some of our dogs that we were putting out, we're not putting marijuana in case there is that, like, learning curve, and they're like, "Oh, no, you gotta get rid of all your dogs." At least we'll still have some dogs, so it's kinda like alternating, like, one dog is, one dog isn't, just in case something was to happen, and that's just kind of us thinking proactively, to prevent, like,
yeah.
"Oh, shit, we gotta get, 5 new dogs right now, tomorrow, because they passed the law." Um, yeah, and that's
We've had
interesting
a
'cause some states have where uh, the smell of raw marijuana, you can put them, because theoretically most of these bags that you're getting from stores should be smell proof. Like, that's part
yeah,
of, like, the most laws I've seen. So, if you smell raw, in some states that gives you probable cause to search because you shouldn't be able to smell it. Now you get to check for compliance. And number two, some states I've seen if you smell burnt, you could put them through field sobriety to see if they're intoxicated
Yeah.
on marijuana, and then if they are, then you get the search with it or something like that. So it's
Right.
interesting that and I wish it was more consistent across the board. Whatever it is, it would just be so much easier. Like,
And that's
and I
always
don't
the
know.
thing with these social media videos and people arguing in the comments and arguing on Instagram and stuff is that you've got to realize what state you're in, what state
Hmm.
laws you're dealing with, and all that. I mean, I even had a guy come at me the other day because somebody asked in a comment, and it was a video of Fort Lauderdale. So I was like, okay, this is in my actual county,
Hmm.
and somebody just kind of said that they explained Miranda, the Miranda v. Arizona, or the like Miranda warnings, and they were a little wrong, but they said, "Hey, I'm not completely sure of this." So I just chimed in with the most basic, general explanation. You have a detention, or the person doesn't believe they're free to leave, and you're going to ask them incriminating questions. Like that's the
Yeah.
basis.
Yep. That's
The
the two.
that's the yeah, that's the
That's it.
ground level
Yep.
of Miranda. But then I also explained in there that there's nuance to the whole thing. There's, the explanation of if you let the person who's a suspect sit with their back to the door in an interview room and you have your back to a wall and the person could actually stand up and walk out if they said they wanted to, but they've never asked. There's just so much nuance
Right.
to it when you ask that is built around case law and all this kind of stuff. It's not for explaining to somebody on Instagram or whatever. So, but some guy came in to me, oh, well, on a traffic stop, if you see the marijuana, but they don't know that you saw the marijuana, you can ask them a question about it without reading Miranda because they don't know that they're gonna. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're like really getting into the weeds of nuance with
Yeah.
this situation. And basically, all I was trying to explain to this person was, and I guess everybody that reads it, is just the ground level basics of if you're going to ask somebody a question. I was like, what I was trying to say is in Law and Order, when they put handcuffs on somebody and they read the Miranda, completely unnecessary.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
so people that's more so what a lot of cops try to explain to civilians or non-law enforcement is that like the stuff you see on Law and Order, that people start screaming and yelling in these videos when they're like, "You didn't read a Miranda, you didn't read a Miranda." Like, I'm not talking to him. I'm detaining him or arresting him. I'm putting him in a car and I'm getting him out of this lively crowd that is now surrounding us to a safe area. And I'll talk
Yeah.
to him later.
And that's the biggest thing too. Like people think, so let's say you didn't read Miranda. You watch a guy bust a window out of a house.
Yeah.
You arrest him for that. You see it plain view. So I arrest him. Um, and then I question him without me reading Miranda. He's like, "Yeah, I did it because of this or this or this." That doesn't mean your case is bad. That means everything after Miranda is not going to be admissible in court. But you still have you watching him do it. You can't. He's not just going to walk away scot free. And a lot of these videos are like, "Oh yeah, they didn't read you Miranda. You're just free to go." I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Everything up
Yeah.
until that point is still good to go in court. It's that Miranda spot when the court's like, "Oh no, you should have read Miranda. So anything from this point on, you can't talk about." But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean the case is done.
Yeah. So some of that stuff gets thrown out. So it's just so it's a funny thing to deal with. And internet lawyers, YouTube lawyers, and I
Mike
see it
love
on the road. What?
Mike, my business partner, he's an attorney, and he loves to just go in there. Like he just loves to debate. It makes sense
Yeah.
that he's an attorney, but so he'll
Yeah. An
go in
attorney.
there and just kind of like throw little tidbits to like on social media to like piss people off to get them
Yeah.
hooked in, and then he'll just go in there and like give them like the full story and kind of put them in their place. It's funny to watch sometimes.
Totally clean house.
Yeah.
Like these videos where you just hear people yelling like, I want to see, bring me your supervisor, bring me your supervisor, bring me your supervisor. And they just get into a loop where they continue saying the same exact thing because this is what they've seen on social media and they think that it's going to make me upset, make me nervous or whatever. And I was doing it on like a Department of Children and Families case. So, I mean, I wasn't even doing a full-blown investigation. We go with the investigator
Mhm.
just to make sure they don't get shot and killed. And then if there's a criminal violation that we find out during their investigation while we're there, then we take the report and act on that kind of thing. But usually this is follow up to a domestic arrest that was happened the night before, and they're just coming to check on the kids and make sure that the kids are going to be well cared for. And so this lady was going off, and she was just, I want to see your supervisor. And I'm like, I was working overtime on midnights, and one of my good friends was one of the sergeants. So I just backed up and I made sure she could hear it, and I just said it over. I'm like, 801, they are requesting a supervisor on scene, and like, so he could hear her in the background and all that. And he just came over the air, and I turned my volume up, and he's like, I have all the trust in the world in my officers that are on scene, handling that call. I'm not responding. I'm busy. Like, he said it over the air. He's not coming. And so I told her, I go, hey, look, if you have a problem, you can call in a complaint later, but we're here. No supervisor's coming. This doesn't warrant a supervisor's oversight. We've all got body cams. The guy that was on the call with me, and then the investigator doesn't. But I was like, you've got 2 angles of body cam. You're welcome to pull your cell phone out and film us talking to your son with autism that went to a store and potentially had a breakdown in the store, and somebody just called because they felt that he didn't have adequate supervision. Like, this is what we're here for. It's not
How to
a
get so
crime.
blown out of proportion.
We're here to make sure that you don't need any assistance from the investigate. It's from the state to maybe help you out or whatever. And it's not that big a deal, but people get so upset with, they think you're here just to yank their kids out of their hands. And it's like, that's, for all the years that I've been with them, or I've done investigations with them, I think I've seen one, and it was egregious. The rest of the time they are there to help, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, nothing gets
Um,
the child protective service system isn't, not bashing them, but they're so overwhelmed, I think, and it just
yeah,
isn't the best. And I, if I had to say, like, unless it's something completely egregious, I would much prefer like to work on the parenting aspect of it, maybe educate them on how to be a better parent than yanking a kid out like this. That's just so traumatic. Unless it's something
yeah,
completely egregious and like you said. But yeah, overall, I think most cops kind of feel the same way about that. They'd much rather, I don't know, help parents parent than ripping a kid out of that household, even though they're dealing with some type of maybe instability or whatever in the home or whatever, um,
yeah.
and putting them in a
Uh,
brand new home with the people they had never met in their life.
Yeah. So I kind of went off on a tangent on that one, but I was thinking, when we were talking about dogs, my agency did a shift a few years ago, really more to, the vapor bomb, that kind of stuff. So they're more on that, but we have a lot of softer targets. We have a big mall, we have an arena, and then being in South Florida, you have a lot of major events like Super Bowls, music festivals, that kind of stuff. So they, just to lend for multi-agency type stuff. um that so we've even gone away from, you know the days of, all right, once, pop the doors on the car, unlock the doors, crack them, and then have the guys sitting on the curb behind the car and call us out. We'll do a walk around, and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've gone away from, the guys that have those dogs, to a majority of ours are more just bombs,
That-
bombs and patrol dogs, like for hunting people.
yeah, no, I think working a bomb dog would be cool to an extent, but I wouldn't want to be on the end of the leash when the dog alerts. I'm like, yeah, it would be cool to do, but then like when you have one, I'll be like, oh shit, this is not good.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I filmed in our mall. I filmed for one of our bomb dogs. She did a lot of training, and she did a lot of presentations. So she asked, like, "Hey, can you do like our 3 different types of encounters? Um, can you do video for me?" So I was like, "Sure, yeah, let's go." And this was when I worked in community affairs, so I had all the video equipment and stuff. And so we did 3 different things, like, all right, just the dog patrolling the mall, walking with the officer, and the dog finds a bag that's near the bathroom or something and hits on it for that. And then, hey, here comes the guy pulling a suitcase behind him, and the dog's just walking, and then picks up a scent while it's walking, and then they begin almost a pursuit to catch up to this guy to find him and stuff. So yeah, I shot a couple videos of that, and it was super crazy because it's like the end of one of them. It's like he's just sitting in the food court with the bag next to him, and it's like, what do we think's about to happen? Like if he's a
Right.
suicide bomber or whatever, we're always like, man, I hope you're wrong about all these. Like, I hope you're not dragging us to the right bag and the right person.
Right.
But yeah. So, and then the rest of it is like sweeps for the arena prior to events and games and stuff. So they get a lot of work.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm assuming that you guys are so busy that that's all they do, probably.
I mean, when they're, well, yeah, like two of them are in the mall. Like they're actually like mall officers, or we have like a squad of 4 people that work the mall, and there are 2 of them. So they're handling shoplifter
Okay, so they
arrests.
do handle other calls then.
Yeah, they do handle all the other calls. So training days or training nights or training nights and stuff, and then the sweeps for events, they might be pulled off, but for the most part, on a normal daily basis, they're in the mall as the mall officer that's responding to shoplifter apprehensions and arguments in the food court or homeless guys at the bus stop. Classic. All right, let me run another ad. We gotta pay for this show, and then we'll get back and we'll talk about the podcast and some of these other topics. So be right back. Yo, what's up, everybody? Want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items, because aside from the hats that I have up there, Donut Shop Podcast PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show, and don't forget donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks. So yeah, go over to the website, buy some stuff. I got all kinds of fun stuff. I got a shirt like this in there, and then I started making like Krispy Kreme donut logos that look like hey, there's a hat. Krispy Kreme donut logos that say Donut Shop Podcast, and stuff like that. So
That's awesome.
There's trying
not
to
to cut you off.
stuff.
There's a donut place in Michigan that's owned by a police department. Like, it's like, I don't know what happened. Like the guy was going whatever, but it's always owned by like the maybe like the FOP or something like that. I thought it was pretty
Nice.
cool. They have like literally
That's
like
cool.
their own little donut shop. I was like, that's pretty cool, and they keep it going, and it procures revenue for. I'm guessing the FOP. I'm guessing the department. It's probably like an FOP type thing, but yeah, it's
That's
definitely owned
awesome.
by cops. Yeah.
I got a guy on the hook. I'm going to do a podcast. It's in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It's for a company called Parlor Donuts. And he'd hit me up a long time ago, even before the shop opened up. And so I've been over there a few times now. I got a reel on my Instagram about it. And so he wants me to come in and do a podcast, and he's cool. He's got, I was in there the other day, on the 6th, on National Donut Day, and we were just talking. It was the first time we'd met in person. It was always just on Instagram, and he's like telling me all these stories, and I'm like, dude, save this for the podcast, because he had originally hit me up and said, hey, do you want to come here and film a podcast? And I was like, of course I do. And so they're cool. It has like a cool Americana feel to it, like an old, 40s 50s soda fountain kind of vibe. And he has a 46-star American flag, very big. He paid over $1,000 for it, and it was before
Wow.
even Utah was a state. And
That's crazy.
it's an original, it's a real flag. But part of the franchise motto is that they have to have a lot of original type furniture, and so like all the stuff that's out in like the front of the shop is all real antique furniture. So it's not like bought to look that way. So it's cool. And they make, they're called flaky layer donuts. I'm buying into their terminology because it's a croissant donut, but you're not allowed to, it's a copywritten thing by some baker in New York. So
A
they,
croissant is? A
yeah,
croissant donut is copyright?
cronut, like cronut
Oh, okay,
is
okay.
by this one baker that's in New York. But so they can't say cronut, they can't say croissant donut because that's also copywritten by somebody else. So they are called flaky layer donuts, but it's like a croissant. But it's really, they're freaking decadent.
That's
So,
awesome.
so I'll be talking to him. He's a active duty Coast Guard, and then him and his wife own this franchise, and he's got to open up a few more in the county. So I'm looking forward to one coming out west where I live.
Nice.
So I don't have to drive all the way downtown Fort Lauderdale to pick one up or pick up donuts.
That's
So,
awesome.
so those are cool. So I just, try to do that kind of stuff too. So it's fun. So tell me a little bit about the story. Cause you do, aside from your police work career, you spend a lot of time traveling and teaching, um, all different kinds of stuff, or just
It's
like,
it's
like,
all
what are you teaching?
so for me, it's all like criminal interdiction stuff. Like there's some other guys that are really good at traps. Part of my presentation, depending on what the department wants, if they want me to, um, I end in two different ways. Either I'll end with like other crimes that you're going to come across when you're working interdiction, or I'll end with a small trap portion and show videos and the difference between cars and things like that. But
So what's
those
a
that
trap?
trap aftermarket compartment used to hide contraband, and it just
There
depends
you
on
go.
where it's coming from. Like yeah, my bad. So
No, that's what I'm just, yeah, I
yeah,
figured
yeah.
as much as
So
well. I'm sure you have the second slide on your thing, on your presentation is probably the definition, or at
yeah.
least
So
where you
yeah, so
say
it's
that.
anything they do. It's not like just using natural voids. It's going to be something that they maybe like they'll use the natural void and like wall it off and have some type of access to get into it. So that's kind of what a trap is. That being said, my business partner is an attorney, so he teaches case law, and then we have an amazing female officer that teaches. It's like it's like empowering women, but it's not like the verbiage is. It's a lot of like um, how women can be successful in this industry without using like being a feminist or however you want to word it. I don't even know how to word it. It's a lot of like encouragement. She talks about her trials and tribulations in a male dominated, it's like 89% of cops are males. So she talks about
Yeah.
that. She gives them a
And
lot
that's
of
Heather. That's
yeah,
Heather.
yeah,
I mean, I've heard her story on Anti-Hero podcast and a few other podcasts, and I got to meet her in New Jersey. But yeah, so she's got really cool stories, and not really cool, tragic
yes, yes.
and amazing stories like that.
Perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she can really explain a lot to the women that are in this field, and women that are looking into it or just starting, or women that have been in it for a while and just maybe stuck in a rut or can't figure out how to excel in, like you said, a male dominated
Yeah.
field and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um
It's called empowering women, but it's not the title is deceiving because
it's not a cheerleading
no.
conference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she even talks about like you can come to complain to me when you're doing everything your male counterparts are doing. Like, are you going to the range as much? Are you working out? Are you in the gym? Are you doing like she's very, very into you doing everything yourself to make yourself better. And then if you are still, not getting, you know, things that you desire in this profession, then come talk to me. But until you're doing everything as the male counterparts, I don't want to hear you come and complain. Kind of. I've sat through a class a few times. Again, the title's deceiving. That's why I was trying to just
Yeah.
make it more universal so people understand.
No, it's good.
Yeah, but so and that kind of led into the Justice Academy thing. I started teaching in 2017. Interdiction, the federal government, it's kind of gone away right now. I'm hoping it comes back, but it's called Drug Interdiction Assistance Program. It's been around. It's the longest running interdiction program in the country, and I'm hoping it's just kind of like a whole thing. They're trying to figure it out, but so I started to do that. I volunteered my time and went spent 11 days in El Paso to become an instructor with them, and you would have to travel to teach. And what was amazing about it is they had this advanced ride class. So you'd have active cops teaching other active cops how to work interdiction in a classroom, and then we would go ride with you. So you would work your highway and like, kind of just guide you through those traffic stops, which is uh, there's no better way to learn.
How
But yeah,
like, so how are you when you're in another state or another jurisdiction? Do you get some sort of like deputized
no,
just
so
in case you had to
I would be
act or
no, I'd be a passenger in the car, and it's under the federal umbrella.
okay.
So I'm not like a
That's what I'm
federal
saying. Like,
agent. Yeah,
did they
like
deputize you as like a
mm-mm,
marshal or,
no,
or something like that? No, you just,
no.
what were you carrying for that?
The, most of the time, yeah. I'm trying to think. If I flew the department, you would usually give me a vest and gun. If I drove, then I would just bring my own. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because, like, yeah, say you're out with a guy, and I mean, uh, traffic stops
yeah,
are dangerous,
yeah,
and especially when it's somebody that you're trying to do interdiction, and they're traveling with drugs or a large amount of drugs or some sort of contraband or even people. Um, y- you know, you want to be. I would think you want to be prepared. You're not just some civilian ride along that's like,
right.
here, kids, sit in the back, and if something happens, this is how you, this is the push button to unlock my ignition or whatever, so you can get the hell out of here while we're in a shootout. Like,
No, yeah, because I mean, as they approach, we're kind of approaching to it, the same car. So yeah, I would never go without a vest and a gun. Um,
yeah.
I guess I never
So I was
really
just
thought of it.
curious
Yeah,
with the
I guess I
jurisdictional.
yeah, I never really thought about it
Yeah,
I was
because
there on behalf of the federal government. I just thought I'm good to go, I guess.
yeah, I'd be curious, like if you had to shoot somebody
Yeah, knock on wood.
or
Hopefully that
whatever.
never happens.
Yeah, I mean, knock on wood, fingers crossed, but it's weirder shit's happened.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree.
you started with that
Hmm.
and doing that on the federal side, then you transition kind of into your own.
And yeah, my own
Um,
program because like kind of so on that one, there's not that it's a bad thing, but you teach a very it's a class that everyone teaches. So you're not necessarily teaching your own stops. You're not teaching firsthand knowledge. You know what it is, but you weren't there seeing all these other things. So if like questions were to come up outside of what, the notes or the video that we were watching or something along those lines, especially in the classroom portion, we can't really elaborate on it. So my class was more focused on firsthand knowledge, being there, doing it. And if you had questions, I could elaborate, like, no, this took place or that took place. Um, so I just felt like the DIAP program was amazing because it touched so many people and it had that advanced ride class. But if you didn't have the actual officer that did those stops in those videos, kind of fell short. So mine, I was like, all right, well, I'll just make mine where it's all me. Like, and if you have questions, I'll elaborate it to any extent because I was there. I saw it all happen firsthand, and I think that's the best
that,
way to go to classes. Like if you're going to a class and it's a guy teaching a class and it's not from firsthand knowledge and firsthand experience, you're not going to learn as much as you possibly could from someone that's actually been there and done it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. You can really expand on that. And like I know even our training officers do that, like when we're in kind of a defensive tactics training for our block training, they'll put up several, officer involved shootings or officer involved fights or tasings or whatever before we get into scenarios and other training for defensive tactics at work. And they'll bring up these things and they make it sound like, or they do their best to reach out to the agency to say, hey, can you give me more backstory than just this video I pulled from police activity on YouTube or something. But sometimes they're blank or they're absent and they interpret things or they sort of make up the front end of the interaction and they say this is why we're here and this is what happened, and then sometimes it's like we'll ask questions like, well, what happened to that guy? And it's like, was there an IA investigation? Did he get indicted for something or that? And we don't always have that. And sometimes that is important for training. So that sounds really cool that you're taking and splicing together your body cam, your dash cam, your radio transmissions, and then you can give the before story, and then you can give the after story, and you can even give the this is how trial went or whatever. If somebody has that kind of question, this is the conviction, or I lost it because of X, Y, and
Hmm.
Z or something like that.
Yeah, because I mean,
I mean, that's the best way. Wow.
training's not always. I mean, there are times that like I've missed compartments, I've lost things in trial, and so like there's no better way to learn. I mean, and it sucks that way, but by failure. Like you're going to learn more by failure than you are by your successes. And I talk about my failures in my class because why not? You have to. If I was to get up there and say like every car stops loaded, like that's not going to go over well because it's bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that sounds really cool. And so you go to these agencies reach out to you, or they
Yeah,
hear about
usually.
you and
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know how they hear about me. Sometimes we'll throw out some emails or something, put something on social media, but like I'm booked up pretty much all the way until October of next year. Again, I'm still an active cop. I only teach once a month. So it's not like I have all these like classes everywhere, but like so
yeah,
when people start to
4
reach
weeks a
out,
month. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of just book them out as they come along. Um, so yeah, I mean it's amazing to get and go and speak to proactive cops because most of these cops that are coming to my class, they have 3 to 5 years on, they're proactive already, and they just wanna get better, so it's not like I'm having to teach a class that's mandated by the state or something, like those classes where you're forced to be there. This is like a very good, like, elective that people actually wanna be there, so it's a very, like, energetic, you feel the vibe when you walk into the one class where it's, like, mandated and everyone's like, "Fuck, I gotta be here." It's like, "Brr." But then you come to, like, a class where it's an elective and everyone wants to be there, the vibe's, like, upbeat and almost
Yeah.
like excitement.
We were talking about it before, sometimes the parity between states and state laws. Do you find that everything, or what you teach translates to all those states, or all the places, because you're traveling around the country? Um, do you find that translates to it, or
Yeah, I don't
translates
know
to
if
that
and
well?
yeah, so I cover basic federal law, and then I teach the class basically, like, if you use Google Scholar, compare this federal law to your state, and then you see if it complies. Like, Mike teaches case specific, so state specific case law,
Yeah.
where mine, I'm just more of, like, the federal standard, and if you don't know what your state standard is, like, uh, then you can use Google Scholar, and it's pretty self-explanatory, and it'll explain it pretty well to you. But, like, for example, um, Pennsylvania, they do not have the automobile exception. So if a dog the only way they can search cars on consent. If a dog alerts, they have to write a search warrant. Indiana, that's different. But, like, I don't know all the states, you know what I'm
So
saying? So I know that
they don't work off of Carroll doctrine,
no, yeah,
right?
if the dog alerts in Pennsylvania on a car, they have to apply for a search warrant. If they get
Wow.
consent, they can search. But yeah, so Florida's probably similar to Indiana. A lot of states are. There's a few outliers when it comes to
Right?
automobile
Is I
exception
mean,
rules.
I, I I'm not saying I'm the greatest cop in the world, but um, so Carroll, yeah, but Carroll doctrine is a U.S. Supreme Court case.
Right.
But
And then
basically, in
the states
layman's
get
terms or layman cop term, it just is saying that the vehicle has the ability to move or leave, and so
mhm,
that's what gives us the ability to search it without a search warrant,
correct.
because that vehicle can leave. If we smelled marijuana coming from your house, we'd obviously have to get a search warrant because the evidence might not be destroyed or could not leave because it's in a house or it's at that house, and then houses are even more well protected than
Yep.
vehicles are, for the most part. So Pennsylvania just has some sort of
State law that
state law. Oh,
gives their, I guess,
interesting.
citizens more,
Freedom.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think how
Prevention
to word it.
of
Yeah, like more
prevention
protection.
of
Yeah,
government
yeah.
interference
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, that's exactly, yeah. More
of their
protection.
illegal activities.
And that's and
you
that's
know
and that's interesting to me because I look at it, and I'm not judging their case law, and I don't know why it is the way it is, but I look at it and I'm like, "Man, like, if I get a dog alert and I have to apply for a warrant and say that you just had, like, I don't know, 2 grams of weed, where maybe
yeah,
I would have wrote you a summons. Now I just detained you for what, an hour, 2, 3 hours, for a couple grams of marijuana and of something
that
that you
runs
could have
into
because now
wow.
it's like I think they're trying to protect them and make it, um less invasive, I guess, but if I'm if I every time my dog alerts and I don't get consent, I have to hold you for 2, 3 hours to get a judge to sign off on this warrant, and I have to keep you there, like, now, I don't know, that's restricting your freedoms even more in my mind, and I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
I don't see how they would let I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah, so you learned that from going to Pennsylvania and teaching there, and then
Yeah,
these guys kind of explaining like, well, you
yeah.
know,
Well, I knew that one.
You
New
knew
Mexico.
it. I would hope you know it
Yeah,
before you go in
going
there,
in. Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're not just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"All right, well, class is over, guys.
No, yeah, no. Yeah,
Have a good day."
New Mexico is another one that has some caveat to the Carroll doctrine too. There's I would say 6 or 8 states that are a little different than just following directly with what the federal law says on the Carroll doctrine.
Interesting, interesting. Oh, all right, so that's cool. So you guys do you guys all go around at the same time, or
No,
sometimes, like,
independently.
maybe the empowering women class isn't available during this session, or Mike's isn't available during that session?
No,
Um,
we all put on like a 6 to 8 hour class, and it's all independent. Basically, like we don't do anything where it's a 2 or 3 day class, all 3 of us or anything like that. It's just I go here, Heather goes there, Mike goes there. When they're based on they're all active cops, so that comes first, and then
yeah,
traveling to teach kind of fills in the blanks. And Mike's a cop or an attorney too, so he's always busy as shit.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a cool thing to be able to travel around, meet different people, um, and hear different stories from law enforcement and stuff. So, do you get to roll any of that into your podcast, Beyond
I
the
do.
Barrel podcast?
Yeah, so I've been to like 40. I've taught in 44 states, 45 states,
Okay,
which is pretty amazing. Like I ultimately my goal is to get to all of them.
hell yeah,
Hopefully one day. But yeah, so then I started the podcast in August of last year, and it was more. It was on the selfish side. Like I like hearing cop stories. I like hearing how cops what they do off duty. And I think that uh, me personally, like when I got in this profession, I that's all I cared about. Like I didn't have this off switch and this break. And people always told me like, oh, it's gonna beat you down for years. It hasn't really. Like I don't get burnt out. I love it. I love going to work. I still love my job. But I know that it does people do get burnt out from the job because it can be overwhelming. And hearing people, cops, talk about what they do off duty, it's giving other people the option, like, "Oh, shit, like, I don't have to just eat, breathe, and sleep police work, and there's other things that I could do, and it's gonna be beneficial for my health." So, on the selfish side, that's kinda why I like to do it. I like to have these conversations, and I like to have, from people all over the country. We just had someone on from Canada for the first time, which is pretty cool.
oh yeah,
But yeah, like, that's and it's not all cops. We interviewed, a cop wife that's gonna come out soon, some military guys. Um, I just released the one with, Sal's mom and dad from New Jersey.
yeah.
That's a crazy
Crazy
story.
story. Yeah, I listened to that one. That was a good podcast, and it's something for a good podcast, but a terrible
Terrible
situation.
situation.
You all should check it out. Go on to Kenny's YouTube, or the audio platforms, and even at least just give it a listen, to bring awareness to the situation out of New Jersey. Just give a quick brief advertisement for it. That way, somebody
Yeah,
want to check
so
it out.
Sal was a young cop. I think he got hired when he was 18 or 19. This incident happened when he was, like, 24, I think. These numbers could be wrong, but somewhere around there. So he was in his
But he had
young 20s.
experience. He had a few years
Yeah,
under
a
his
few years
belt.
experience, and he was a young cop. He actually worked a few years in Camden, New Jersey, which is a rougher city. So he has definitely some experience with that. They get a call to a house, where someone calls and says, "There's someone breaking into my garage in my car." There's a little bit of miscommunication through the dispatcher and things along those lines. Sal Partners arrives first, and as he's pulling up to ask where are they at, this guy that's out in the front yard pulls a gun out. His partner
Yeah.
could not get his gun out, so he leaves, maybe a half block, just gets away so he can't get shot. And then
Yeah. Yeah. He
Al
separates himself from the threat.
yeah, and then as
Yeah.
Sal arrives, he's yelling to Sal like he's got a gun, he's got a gun. Sal says, "Who?" Because I guess he didn't see him. And then you see Sal's flashlight illuminate a guy. He takes a step back and then comes back and engages the guy because he had the gun pointed at him.
Yeah.
This and he got cleared by the New Jersey State Police. He got cleared by his department. He went back to work. He got promoted. He got some more awards because he's a
A good cop in
well-decorated cop.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 months later, uh, the New Jersey Attorney General takes it to grand jury, and they get
He gets
billed to
indicted.
indicted on like reckless manslaughter or something that if you
Yeah, I think
read the
that's what it was
statute
called,
doesn't even
reckless.
fit. It doesn't
Yeah.
fit. Like it just doesn't fit for that situation. They even talk about like on the podcast. Sal's mom read everything, and it's more like drinking and driving or driving through like a park, like all these other things that like you're doing things something reckless and someone dies, but as a cop, when a dude's pointing a
To
gun at you
use
and
it
you shoot
to
him,
use
yeah,
the
like
statute against police officers that get
it,
involved in police involved shooting is not the application of that law.
no,
He's applying he's applying a law, almost trying to make a precedent just to completely come after police officers. And it's an
it's sad.
insane story. And he's in jail now,
Mm-mm.
right? No, he's free.
He's on bond.
But
They
his
try to keep him in jail, and they were able to get
oh
the
he's
bond reduced or something, but he's been on bond. I mean, and that they keep continuing it. Like they can't find, and it's from my
so
understanding,
he's
it's a
not,
state
but he's not working.
can't work. Or well, they
Can't
can't work
work.
as a cop anyways.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but it,
I was I didn't get totally finished with it, but I was assuming because his parents were on there that it was one of those.
no, he can't talk
Um,
about it.
yeah, it wouldn't be a good idea to talk about it on podcasts while you're still in trial. So, but yeah, and then now he's receiving some support from the
The
Pipe
pipe
Hitters
hitters with Eddie
Foundation,
Gallagher. Yeah.
Eddie Gallagher and his wife's foundation. So yeah. So, but anyways, so that was a Reader's Digest version, but there's a lot more to it, and it's a good episode to listen to. Just
That
to
was a good one.
just
Yeah.
to make yourself aware and just pay attention to some of these current events that are going on. Just to, if it's, not to say New Jersey's up Shit's Creek, but if it's something and you live in a different state and you can encourage your state representatives to not follow those sort of lines and protect officers. Um, get out there and educate yourself and just don't think this can't happen to me. This isn't going to happen to me. I can't sit here in Florida and think, oh, my state's super red or whatever. This isn't going to happen to me, because it could. My county is very blue, so it's you never know what could happen. And you don't want to be the scapegoat for those kind of actions that some of these guys go a little rogue with the application of the law. um,
Yeah.
so it's crazy. So,
So
but
that they were I don't know the exact numbers, but that specific attorney general has I guess went in on like an anti-cop type thing, and he's indicted a lot of cops, but most of them, I can't say several of them. I don't want to like skew the numbers, but several of them like go to like the point of almost going to trial, and then he just dismisses them. It's almost like he just is like torturing these poor fucking cops, and then
grandstanding and torture. And let's also remind people that maybe aren't law enforcement officers so they understand what an indictment is versus actually being found guilty or even charged. Like, we'll forget the guilty part. Even charged, you've got to have probable cause for that. An indictment is just the state presenting information that they say happened. You have no defense attorney in there.
that's
You have no defense of anything that you've done.
to a grand
You're
jury.
not able to explain to this large jury of people why and what's going on. You just have the state's attorney, however that's called, presenting a case, and then they figure there's enough to go to trial. But
And all
so
you
now that means that this officer's got to go to trial and got to deal with this.
need is majority to indict. So I think I'm not positive, but I think they said that there was 23 people on that grand jury. So all you need is what, 13, 12?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you need
Okay.
12. So
Yeah.
yeah, like so you could be 11, 12. It could be like a 50-50 case. Pretty much theoretically, and then you get charged and or indicted anyways.
Um, sorry, it comes up when I type jurors grand jury. Of course, it's got to go right to Trump. In the federal system, at least 12 of the 16 to 23, 12 of the 16 to 23 grand jurors must agree to indict the defendant. This is also true for Florida. You must have at least 12 votes in favor of the indictment to return. So yeah, so basically, as you're saying, depending on the state, my Google knows that I'm in Florida, so it's probably answering for Florida. But oh, what is the threshold for a grand jury invite? Yeah, again, it says 12 members must concur on the indictment. So it's just, even if you're going to be found, even if there's like, if we were doing betting odds, if you had 100% that you were going to be found not guilty at trial, the time that a trial takes, the wear and tear that a trial takes on mental, and all that kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons for a grand jury, is to show, yeah, there's this, you need to stop. This is not going to be good to go to trial. And so if he's presenting these cases and that, it's scary for cops. And it goes along the lines of how the world doesn't understand what qualified immunity really is. And they don't understand
Yeah, it's
that,
another even.
officer involved shootings are not, I'm not saying that an officer hasn't gone out there and wanted to murder somebody and done it. It's happened. But your
I think that's few
average,
and far between. I just like I
you
don't
could
know. I,
probably count them on one or two hands.
yeah, I don't
Uh,
know many cops that sign up for this job that want to kill someone, want to take someone's life. If that,
yeah,
I have no desire. Like I have no
yeah,
desire to even to pull my gun. Like knock on wood. That
yeah,
like
yeah,
and poor Sal. Like you think of like the PTSD. You go just getting involved in officer involved shooting. You're a good kid. You get in officer involved shooting now. Like you think you're good, and all of a sudden now you're dealing with that stress, that PTSD, and now you're getting indicted, and now you have the possibility of your
especially with
freedom
that
being taken.
situation where that guy, that person that was shot, was potentially either seeking suicide by cop or was in some sort of mental breakdown or mental disorder. um, that leads to affect us. I'm not saying that hardened criminals that just did XYZ terrible crime deserve to die, but I would think, I've never had to do it, that sometimes it might not hurt as much if I had to do that versus just some guy that's having a rough go at things and just doesn't know how to get help, and also usually can't do it themselves, so they feel the need to involve another person. And hey, who's the cheapest person around with a gun to handle a situation for you? A police officer.
Yeah.
And there you go. And that's for suicide or just for getting in an argument. I was laughing the other day saying that kids, when they run around, they'll, somebody pulled someone's hair, mom, dad, and I just say those kids grow up, and when they're older, they just call 911. Officer, he's doing this. Like, so many calls nowadays that I go to, and it's like, and I told this guy the other day, I'm not your father. I can't keep coming here to get you and your girlfriend to stop arguing. You need to stop calling us and leave, because all you're doing is calling me like some little kid calling his mom to the room because she's poking you. Like, you're
Yeah.
grown adults. Like, you need to settle this or leave, separate, whatever. Stop calling the police. You're abusing us. Like,
Yeah, and I think that just goes to society. We kind of lost that like sense of community. Like I feel back in the day, if we had an issue with our neighbor, we would just go like, "Hey, why are you doing this?"
oh yeah,
It would resolve it. Like, "Oh, I didn't know that bothered you," or whatever. Like I think it would resolve things so fast. But now, if my neighbor's doing something, instead of me going to talk to him, I call the police, and what could have been resolved very like cordially
amicably.
between neighbors, yeah.
Yeah,
Now you get the police involved. Now that's gonna piss him off. Like, why are you calling them the cops? Because I did this. Like, I
yeah.
don't know. It
You
goes.
call the
It,
fucking cops on me? Yeah.
yeah.
No, it all the time, dude. All the time. So your training company has now rolled into a new opportunity for a training conference. Like,
Yeah, so this is I don't know. I'm still nervous about it, but I think it's going to be a little overwhelming. The good thing about it is we were able to assemble, I would say, over 12 instructors from 10 different training companies, all willing to volunteer their time, which is amazing. Um, we're going to have vendors and sponsors pay for their travel to come to, to get there, but they're not getting paid at all. And you've been to conferences, and conferences are so much money. They truly are. And so what we've done is we've partnered with a bunch of people basically to get this conference as cheap as possible. It's gonna be $99 for 3 days. Uh,
Yeah,
over 12 instructors, 10 different companies, and the only way it's possible is to have those amazing cops that want to give back, that want to make this profession better, by donating their time. And amazingly, every person that I reached out to, not one person said no. It was mind blowing. I mean, the people that I'm reaching out to are great humans, so it makes sense. But I still felt that some people would have, like, well, man, I'm taking 3 days, 4 days away from my kids and my family. Like that all comes into play. Like, but yeah, it was very humbling to see them all say yeah.
that's awesome. Like, what type of trainings are
There's gonna be
people
everything.
looking for that have been released? Because I know you're,
Yeah, yeah, we're
as
slow
things
rolling
get
it.
confirmed, you're,
Yeah.
you're trickling out the information.
There's going to be some leadership stuff. There's gonna be, one guy that's been announced. It's, Nick Boney. He teaches for, ACIT interdiction, and he does a lot of consensual encounters.
Mm.
By the time this comes out, Mike Vaccaro, he does a lot of hotel multiple parcel interdiction. There's the leadership. There's two guys that are going to talk about like organized theft groups and fraud groups, that it's not just your normal like theft from the store. It's like literally legit people that have organized and turned this into $1 billion operation. Um, canine stuff. There's going to be
Dude, that's
two
some of those.
attorneys
I
that,
mean, those some of those are so awesome that it's like it's some of it is nuanced enough that it's like detective level investigation
Mhm.
stuff, but really for the patrol aspect, like we're the guys that are showing up first and dealing with that. And I think even for a patrol level officer to go to these courses, and that's where sometimes those specialized classes are out of reach on a patrol level, because they're like, look, dude, you're not attached to persons crimes, or you're not in property crimes. Like, we need to save that money to send you to that $700 training for a persons crime class. Like, just take the report, bro, and go. Whereas what you're offering with the expertise of some of these people, and just from what those couple that you said, it's like, oh, dude, that's like some stuff that we run into on the road and need to know how to either start the investigation, classify the investigation, or at least make sure that we're not screwing up the investigation for once it reaches time for detectives.
yeah,
But it sounds like it's financially, available for
I
the
would hope. I mean,
department
it's
to
getting,
send even your base level road officer that's interested in bettering themselves and being hungry.
yeah, I mean, it's a 3-day conference for $99. You're not getting much law enforcement training for $99. Like,
No, no, it's when and where.
oh, it's gonna be, so April 20th is registration. The conference will be 21st, 22nd, 23rd, Myrtle Beach, 2026.
Cool.
And if you
Good
can,
ho- good
so
hotel and stuff. And
so the venue itself is not attached to a hotel, but
okay.
we are in the process of trying to well, if you have hotel questions, well, there's one that we've, been talking to, that maybe
Yeah.
we'll be able to get some discounted rates and blocks and stuff.
Yeah.
But the venue itself is more of a standalone location.
Okay. Cool. Cool. It's fun. And I know as far as podcasts are concerned, counterculture is going to come out there,
Yeah,
and so we'll be there. I know I'm planning on being there.
Tyler talked
I'll be
about doing the.
retired.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
that. Tyler talked about doing. I hope he still plans on it, but doing the live from like the
Of
actual
course.
venue. That one night, that'd be badass with like 500, 600 people in the
Oh,
audience.
I mean, what an opportunity for shows like ours to be able to advertise our shows,
Right.
and then advertise counterculture and stuff, of course, and then support the event, talk about the event that way. In the future, it's even bigger, or you got a wait list kind of thing.
So
Um,
yeah, so
but
with that, like the $99, no one's gonna make money. Even Mike's still trying to go through and get a nonprofit.
yeah,
So we're not. If we make any more money, if we decide to do another conference, that money's gonna roll over to that conference. If we decide not to do it, if it's like too big of a pain in the ass and too big of a lift, we're gonna end up just donating that to like the Myrtle
yeah,
Beach FOP or something. Like no
yeah,
one's making any money in this. Like it's gonna be a wash, across the board, pretty much.
yeah, Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I mean, it sounds, but like I said, I'll be retired, but I almost want to sit in some of these classes and learn about some of this stuff because I mean, I know even like with our I was talking about officers that work the mall and work and understand the organized retail theft from what they see. And I know there's companies out there that teach that organized retail theft. And we have, large amounts of like gypsies that come through that would live in South Florida, and they're organized players. And our guys would have their photos all on a wall, and they'd be walking around and they'd go, all right, I saw you know, X. I saw this guy, and they'd come over the radio and they'd basically alert mall security and all this to like watch this person as they go. And then they just know that if they saw that person, that there's five others that are with them, and they just know that they need to keep an eye on all the five people, the three of the people that are sitting in massage chairs out in the walkway of the mall. They're probably involved. All this because they fill up a roller bag, and then they come out, and then they just let it drift into the mall corridor, and then somebody else, just like you see in the movies, the little handoffs, the little
Hmm.
moving, and it's like somebody moves, and then this wheel roller is now changed three hands, and it's walking a complete different direction than where, so just for stuff like that, organized retail theft, it's pretty
Even on
cool. And
traffic
then,
stops, to be able to identify it, like I've come across several of them, and you see them where they all have like the Bluetooth glasses where they can communicate to each other. And
yep.
then the one I'm thinking of is like they all had these oversized suits on, and they had spandex underneath them. So
Mhm.
basically, and then at the bottom of their pants, they just had it, and they literally just lined their pants up with like small electronics, like Google Nests and those types of things or whatever they're called, like the cameras for in the homes, and they literally just line their pants, but they would have like a lookout with the Bluetooth, and they would all communicate and work together. One of the guys would go distract the employee that was working that area. This guy would break into the case, fill his pants up. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just it goes to teaching skills that sometimes people don't either have the experience or the ability to learn it. Like I remember when I used to work retail back in high school and all through college, that I always knew that if somebody made eye contact with me in the store and they didn't signal me to ask me a question about a size, they were probably stealing. And then I just slowly work my way over to them, do the customer service angle that we used to have to do because we didn't have loss prevention back then. We were only supposed to like make suggestions to the person and just give them extra customer service. And then, but there was so many times that I would get clothes thrown at me, cursed at, and all that stuff because the real demon or the real person finally came out. They looked like a shopper, but then they just knew that I was on to them. And that's just one of those visible cues that an officer might get thrown into a mall or a retail area and has to work shoplifting and that kind of stuff, and they may not realize that those are some of the clues that you can get. And the same thing goes to traffic stops and all that for interdiction and everything. And so those are all those key points that you guys probably share in your classes and in your trainings and stuff. So it's totally worthwhile. So
For
wish I was
sure.
still doing the job then. No, but
You could always rescind that retirement, right?
yeah, well, I haven't turned anything in yet, so,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, it's, the mind is there, so
I
that's
got you.
that's where I'm at. So let's go to, let me run one more little commercial, and then, let's see, which one do I want? I'm gonna run this one. I haven't run this one in a while. What's in the cup? Guys, what's in my cup? Blackout Coffee Company. We joined up with them. I've been drinking it and I enjoy it. And I think you may enjoy it as well. So you can go over to our website and click the link, or you can just go to their website, blackoutcoffee.com, and use our coupon code to get 10% off. The code is DSP10. So go over, check it out. And I'm back. So you and pretty much the last thing that I want to get into, you and Anthony Shefferly, one of our buddies. I keep
Hmm.
saying counterculture, but yeah, one of our buddies through counterculture, Heroic Industries is a podcast that he has, and then a personal training company. Little plug. You guys kind of got together, and I'll tell a little bit of the backstory because I don't know if you tell the story this way, so I'm gonna take over. You guys sort of saw a little bit in the social media society, and even in the counterculture society of sort of highlighting the negative, or at least getting uh, beaten into the negative of some of what police work has done and what we see online. So, and you guys are taking it in a different direction. So what's
So I mean, I'm never a big fan of, like, I guess, Monday morning quarterbacking any case, because I just don't know. I wasn't there. You're not seeing things in a 360. You're not seeing everything. It's just really, really hard for me to sit back and pass judgment, because I'm not seeing everything that these cops are seeing. So I I I, I watch those, but I'm not necessarily one that wants to partake in those, because I just don't feel that I am the I don't have the right to do so. But on the other side of that, it's like we break these down, and we make all these assumptions, and we almost like demonize people that get involved in maybe shitty situations, but we don't know the whole backstory. Um,
yeah,
and that's a big thing for me. Like, I don't know the backstory. Like, do you work in an area that doesn't want you to go hands on when you should go hands on? Like, is your admin going to be pissed if you do? Is your politician support you? So there's all these other things that come into play. On the flip side of that, I'm not a big fan of cops going on social media portraying the job that it's not. Like, you can't, it's both ends of the spectrum. So you go on TikTok or any other social media platform, and you do things that the job doesn't entail. I can't stand that either, because what we're doing is we're attracting people to the profession that now have a false perception of what the job is, based on what you're putting out there, and it has no value to the profession. It has no value to being a cop. It has no merit to what a cop is. So those are 10% on each side. So Anthony and I
yeah,
looked at the other 80% and said that's the majority of what we're dealing with, and we are accepting, like, basically nominations, and kind of tired of. Anthony words it better. He's like, what does he say? Are you tired of department awards, basically, because we don't understand how people get picked for these.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like a rotation of the award. Like, you got it last year, you get it this year. Like, and basically, it's back to, like, everyone gets a trophy era.
yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of where it is. And now what we want to do is, like, we want to find cops doing the right thing, the right situation, handling it with communication, care, and whatever the situation entails. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a violent encounter. You were able to communicate a situation, and it prevented a violent encounter. Or the three nominations we had the other day was uh, pursuit. Guy wrecks his car, rolls. I think he said 4 or 5 times. The cops run up, and thinking, because they see him crawling out, and they think he's going to run again. Well, he looks like he goes away, turns around, and pulls out a gun and starts shooting at him. Cops were able to stand their ground, return fire, and eventually no cop got hurt. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
The other one, a suspicious person call. They go to a bridge. This dude smoking a cigarette, very calm, not agitated at all. All of a sudden, he tries to jump over the bridge. The cops were able to pull him back and save him. And then the third one was the everyone probably saw it, the New Orleans escapees in Texas. They get
Uh-huh.
pursued. The calm control, like, that's what we liked about it. Like, the dude took control. He saw a crossfire situation. He said, "Hey, everyone move to this side of the car." And then they removed the guy out of the back window. But, like, the communication, the control, he was just in a pursuit, and he was able to communicate so smoothly without any type of, like, elevated thing. He was calm, cool, and collective, which Anthony has, like, a master's in psychology and explained it better than me. But
Yeah.
when you
He's
have
got
that
multiple
calming,
psychology degrees.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when you have that calming voice in the situation, it calms everyone down, compared to the guy that's yelling and screaming, and how everyone's yelling and screaming. So that's what we liked about that. You just got in a pursuit with guys that, and I don't know if these were, but some of them were, like, wanted for very violent crimes or even homicide, and they escaped from prison. And this dude just got in a pursuit with them, very calm and collective, has his rifle out, directs everyone. He's a young cop, and he just handled himself so well. So that's the one. But this is kind of the award, and we kind of put a pun on it. So it's a golden
Yeah.
pig. And, like, I bought 6 of them, so we're gonna do it once a month. Um,
Cool.
if you check us out on social media, there's a form that Anthony has that you can submit, whoever you want. And it's not necessarily a lifetime achievement award. It's more of like an incident, like right now, like something that happened that you handled yourself the right way, that you might not get recognition from anyone else. But we know what the job entails. And I think, as me, I'd rather have an award that came from my peers than
Right.
community. Like, I want my peers to think highly of me compared to everyone else.
You you hear that a lot with, award ceremonies, and I'm not going to say actors are great people or anything like that, but they say stuff like the SAG awards or from their colleagues are they feel worth more than stuff from like the Academy and stuff like that. But and then the other thing is kind of like what you said with maybe how like department awards sometimes just rotate through some of the general ones, or the one that's going to make the chief look the best to his elected politicians, whereas we on the road or in the police department sometimes look at things that the general public may not look at and think is, oh my god, that's so great. you know um, we may look at it through a different lens and say, this is actually really good police work, or this is a great example of protecting the 4 other officers that are on that call. And that's not something that can necessarily be written in a memo to an awards committee that's going to show up at a city council meeting, or some giant organization's awards ceremony, FOP awards ceremony.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily compute or translate to what some people have in mind for an award. So that sounds really cool. And where did you run this? Did you run this? You said it was on Insta, or
No, we
was it
ran
on
it
Instagram?
on Beyond the Barrel Live, but it was a shit show. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
It was
Like,
a shit
this is
show.
the
But
first time
also
we
like
ever.
through this,
Yeah,
like
so we
doing
ran
this,
it
but
through,
live.
but completely live. Yeah, and
Okay.
next time it'll be better. But the first time,
Okay.
you guys will
Yeah.
probably laugh
Yeah.
your ass off for a little bit, but
Yeah.
towards the end, it got better once we
And
figured it out.
so when people are submitting things, should they know the person, or should it be a colleague, or is it just one of these like, yo, I saw this video on Instagram and I'm going to share it and nominate
What?
this person?
So yeah, with
Did
the
you?
form, we if you give us the department, we'll try to do our due diligence to track that officer down. All the 3 like that were submitted, I was able to. Uh, the one that actually won, someone else submitted it to me and just told me the department, and
Oh,
I
okay.
was
So they didn't, it wasn't a colleague or a coworker. It was just they
mm-mm.
knew about this story.
Yep.
Um, and then you guys have to do, did you guys, was the video information readily available, or did you have to do
Yeah,
any
that
kind of like records requests?
no, that one was public. The one that was the guy trying to jump off the bridge, um, he submitted it to me and said that we could use it. So I was like, all right, fair enough. And
Okay.
then um, the other one that was public too.
I had a
But
guy actually jump off the bridge. I didn't
oh
get him.
wow,
I didn't catch him, but he landed in water, so he was fine. He was like 210 feet up, and he landed and just like fractured his leg or
oh,
whatever. We were trying to. I had just gotten there as a negotiator, and I tried to like engage with him in some stuff because patrol had been there for an hour, and we were keeping a bit of a distance because patrol had no idea if he had weapons or anything like that, and he he made a phone call trying to talk to this girl that had made him upset, and like as a negotiator you learn like, oh crap. And then he was also smoking a cigarette, so it's like, here's deadline is when the cigarette's over, is a deadline, and then the phone call is one of those possible triggering events. She didn't answer the phone, so he says, all right, fuck this bitch, and he closed the flip phone, set it down, and then just kicked his legs out and just woo. And I'm like, oh, there he goes. And he got that, and then I look, and he's just treading water, and
oh
rescue was
man.
already on the canal bank ready to retrieve him and pull him out. So
Ironically,
so
this guy was smoking too. So I wonder if that was I didn't. The guy that
yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
you think of a person that is on a on the edge,
Hmm.
figuratively and literally. um I would put a personal trait or a characteristic as a smoker.
Makes
um
sense.
you know, um, I don't know. That my guy was also a um, high rise painter. So like paints high. So he was not afraid of heights. The patrol said that he had been pacing back and forth, and this was on a highway bridge, like flyover. So he was just on that wall, that median wall type thing that's like right on the edge, and
Hmm.
it's a turn bridge, so it's actually got like a racetrack slant to it. So it's even slanted. So it freaked me out just to like get to the edge, because the edge wasn't a straight vertical edge. It was like I had to look over, and I had to look over a lot more to see the base of the highway, because
Wow.
the highway was tilted. So it's like, oh, this was, ugh. And it was right as the sun was coming up. But anyways, so that's an awesome, it's a cool thing. So did you receive more acknowledge or more nominations, or those three?
No, there were some more, but it was some people were submitting some like lifetime achievement type things. That's why I kind of put that
Oh,
caveat out there. Like like great cops. Like I'm not taking anything away from it. Just wasn't necessarily meeting the kind of parameters that we were looking for.
yeah. And this is the first time you guys have awarded it. So
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah. So where can people find the form if they're listening to this and think
It's
like, oh yeah, I know a situation?
if you look up under Heroic Industries or on Red Ninja _111 on my Instagram, Anthony has tagged me on it, and it's there.
Okay. I'll put some stuff down in the description
That works.
for all of these projects, to give information for all these projects and stuff, and where people can find stuff. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think we're pretty much coming up to a good point to wrap. So you have anything else you want to add, or anything
No, man, I
else?
just appreciate you having me. It's
Yeah,
great talking
yeah.
to you, catching up, and everything.
Yeah, it's good. I've said it a lot of times to a lot of people. This is sometimes one of the easiest ways to force somebody to talk to you for a long period of time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my podcast. That's what I always say. Like you get trying to talk to a cop for more than 10 minutes, good fucking luck. But like you get them now that hey, we have to do an hour podcast. It
yeah,
I love it. I like you learn so much about people, and
yeah,
it's good. It's cool.
that's
And then
cool.
you get to
Cool.
even with like I didn't add this, but even with the podcast that we're doing, I started a mini series with like retired interdiction guys, and
Right. Yeah, those have been coming
those
up.
have been those have been doing really well, and it just um they live so vicariously for the guys and girls still out there doing it, and they're always like, man, my phone's always on, but in my world, I'd be intimidated to call you to ask you about interdiction, but now you put all this knowledge out there in the podcast, it just seems
Yeah.
to do really well with the youth.
That's good. Yeah. So yeah, I'll put all the information for Beyond the Barrel and stuff too, down in there. Yeah, I know you've got a whole bunch of Instagrams, you've got some Facebook stuff. But yeah, I'll put it all in the description for everybody to find it.
Appreciate you.
That way you don't have to rattle it all off and get it out there. So all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and
Well,
I'll
thank
hit
you,
end
man.
right here, and then we'll finish this upload.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.